49ers offseason took a little bit of an unexpected twist for a lot of 49ers fans. More people exiting the organization than entering. How difficult will it be for the 49ers to replace those they have lost? And some thoughts from our resident, not only 49ers fan, voice of the fan, Nick Winkler on this Winky Wednesday, our resident fullback as well. Thoughts on Kyle Juszczyk, Mac Jones, what the 49ers are doing right now as we head toward the 2025 NFL Draft. Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock here. Eric Crocker not with us, but you know who is with us. If you're driving in your car on your way to work on Wednesday morning, you know the score. Mr. Nicholas Winkler at Bay Area Wink on Twitter. You can find me at BD Peacock. We're talking San Francisco 49ers. Nick Winkler, my former radio colleague, my former podcast co-host that predates Locked On 49ers. And I think he's got some insight for us. He's aficionado of special teams. 49ers have done a lot of special teams work this offseason, and he's a former fullback. So I think we've got some good insight here from Nicholas Winkler. And so let's give him a proper introduction right now. Let's bring on today's guest.
I don't buy it.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
This is the wrong button, but I like it, man. It works. It works all the same.
Can't believe it.
It was perfect.
Mr. Nicholas Winkler. Now, hey, first of all, can we welcome you officially back to the Bay Area proper? Coming back to the Fremont area from Monterey, where you were. You used to live in other places, including the city where I met you, working in radio. So welcome back to the Bay Area now. How you liking Fremont so far? I know you're working on your home studio situation. How you liking being back in the Bay?
It's great. I mean, 9 years I left the Bay and lived in Monterey. It was great. I mean, wonderful place, great people, nice place to retire, not a whole lot going on with the nightlife and, the activities to do and things like that. So excited to get up here, closer to the Niners, closer to the Giants, closer to the Warriors, just closer to concert venues and just all the fun stuff of living up here. I mean, I didn't miss 880 and 101 and those, the traffic.
We used to report on traffic together, and
which is nice.
I was always blown away because at the time I barely even had a car, right? And I lived in the city. I would go downtown where we used to work in the iHeartMedia building that's like a block away from Oracle Park where the Giants would play, and I'd go down. We'd go to work, and I would, maybe I would drive some days, but I would, mostly be taking public transit. And I was always blown away by our coworkers that just reported on how bad the traffic was all day long and be like, get off work and be like, all right, see you later. And they would get in their car and go drive in that traffic.
Yep. And they would do it every single day, even though they could take BART or they could take Muni or something like that. They're just like, no, I want to be in the comfort of my own car. No, I was with you, man. But even before I started working with you at the Townsend Street, we were over on Main Street, right off the Embarcadero. And that, I mean, there was no parking garage or anything like that. So for me, I 100% took Muni every day. I would take a train in and then walk the rest of the way and got in great shape. And reporting on traffic is funny when you don't have to drive in it. But when you do, it's terrible. I mean, right now I'm lucky though, because I can give somebody a buzz over there and be like, hey, is Mitch working today? Like, hey, let me talk to him real quick. Let me tell him what's going on 880. What's ahead of me on 101? Like, what do I have to expect here? So it's nice to still have a few of those connections for sure.
And remember, one of the things we would do is keep track of how many Christmas trees were blocking lanes.
Oh man, the tally marks.
Yeah, and all the stuff's like I will never follow a truck that has a ladder on it.
No,
in the rest of my life.
Anyone out there, like ladders, horrible idea. Christmas trees. If you see anything in the back of a truck, just move out of the way. Plus, I used to ride a motorcycle, and then I started working there, and I was like, oh man. No way. Anytime you see motorcycle accident, it was always terrible. It was just like, that's it. I'm never getting on one again.
Yeah. Look, let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers offseason.
Okay.
And look, feel free to get involved in the chat. We're going an impromptu Wednesday live here. It's Tuesday evening, actually, as we record this. If you're live with us on YouTube, so feel free to get some questions in about the 49ers offseason. I want to talk about a few topics and something we haven't had a chance to talk about over the course of the last week. One is Mac Jones. And I'm wondering how much PTSD you have from the 2021 NFL draft and your thoughts on bringing back Mac Jones as now a backup quarterback instead of, the franchise quarterback he could have been 4 years ago.
Well, it's one of those things where you're watching the offseason, right, as a 49er fan. You're like, what are they doing? This is terrible. Oh, God, I got rid of more people signing there and there. And then I saw the Mac Jones signing. And I'll be honest with you, I got excited. I was like, okay, all right. They already held all the cards in the Brock Purdy thing, right? And they still have him under contract. They can franchise him for a couple after that. But now you bring in Mac Jones, a guy who Kyle Shanahan wanted. Let's be honest. If we look back at that draft, Kyle Shanahan was going to take Mac Jones. And then there was some, probably getting some pushback from that. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, okay, we're going to go with Trey Lance, But I bet in the back of his mind, even up until they made that draft pick, I think Kyle Shanahan had wanted Mac Jones. And you look at what Mac Jones did his rookie season with New England. He had put up solid numbers on a team that wasn't very good. So to me, I think it's just a fantastic move. You bring him in. He's super inexpensive. He probably has a stronger arm than Brock. He was a much highly touted, a much higher prospect, right, than Brock Purdy was. Brock Purdy's been amazing. I love Brock Purdy. I'm not trying to push Brock Purdy out of the door. But Mac Jones, it just puts a fun twist on it, right? It gives the 49ers another ace in their hand that they can play in this negotiation with Purdy. So I love it. I think it's a fantastic move. And I think it also kind of eliminates the chance of Brock Purdy holding out. Because if he holds out, then it's like, oh, you're going to give Mac Jones all the snaps, in training camp and all the like mini camp stuff. You're going to give those all the OTAs. You're going to give all the Mac Jones. What if he looks amazing? Like you're really going to hurt yourself and your negotiations, Brock, if you do that. So I love the 49ers doing that. I think it's a shrewd move.
Yeah, the Mac Jones thing's funny because obviously the full circle. And look, I don't think Kyle Shanahan chose Mac Jones. If Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones, that he gets to choose. And it would have been Mac Jones as the draft pick. But I do think he fully liked Mac Jones. And it's funny because like that 2021 draft, you're like, man, obviously it didn't go good. The 49ers just flushed 3 first-round picks down the toilet. But it's like, it's not like they just missed. They drafted Sam Bowie and missed out on Michael Jordan. The other option was bad too. Like,
right.
It wasn't going to turn out good for the 49ers with that trade up to number 3. And that's what I always think about with that. But Mac Jones, the backup, is very different than Mac Jones, the franchise quarterback that you spent 3 first-round picks on. And I think he's in the perfect spot to be a backup. And we shouldn't be shocked when and your brain went to the same place mine did, because when it comes to Brock Purdy, and if the 49ers can't get it done, he's probably going to hold out. And like the headlines write themselves. Mac Jones is going to show up in OTAs, and to start training camp, Brock's still going to be holding out. Like, oh, Matt Barrows, Matt Mayoko, Mac Jones looks pretty good, looks pretty sharp in practice, right? Like this, we know what's coming already. And so Brock Purdy probably wants to get ahead of that a little bit. Does this help the 49ers? It does, from a standpoint of they at least know they have a guy who can start games in the NFL.
Right.
If something goes haywire with Brock Purdy in those negotiations, I don't think Mac Jones is very good as far as like what he could be as the starting quarterback for the 49ers. Like, is he going to lead them somewhere that Brock Purdy also could? And I don't think so. But it gives them probably a little bit more peace of mind, and he's certainly a better backup than they've had recently. And it just gives them an option, and he's not expensive. And also Kyle Shanahan can get it out of his system. Be like, what would it have been with Mac Jones? Well, now we're going to know. He got Trey Lance, got Mac Jones. Who knows? Maybe next it'll be Justin Fields, right? In a couple more years. He'll be the quarterback, and he'll have had a chance to work with all of them, and we'll really know all the answers, which was you shouldn't have traded up to number 3. You should have just sat at 12 and taken Micah Parsons is the real answer, right?
Well, yeah, of course. But you also got to look at it like, Zach Wilson at 2 wasn't very good either, right? So this was one of those drafts that the 49ers lucked out getting Purdy at the end, right? I mean, that was huge.
Oh,
and you got a guy.
There was 5 first-round quarterbacks in the top 15. All but one were bad, and the one that's not bad is still not as good as everyone thought he was going to be.
Right.
He wasn't the next Andrew Luck or John Elway or whatever. And today I posted just for fun. I was just kind of messing around. I was actually on a long kind of jog and walk, and I was kind of walking and resting. And I was like, I'm gonna send out a mock draft tweet, because I've been thinking about like in the first time in like our lives, practically. In fact, in the first time since Joe Montana was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. It's been that long since there's been a first round of the draft where the new league year started and every team had their first round pick still.
Wow.
The first
really?
time since the year before that. Yeah.
Was that like 93 or 94?
It was the 93 draft following the 92 season. Yeah. And the 49ers used that first round pick that they got from Kansas City on Dana Stubblefield, who ended up being defensive player of the year. And then we won't talk about post football life. You can look that up if you want to for Dana Stubblefield. But it's been that long since every team had their first round pick. And me and Williamson on the Peacock and Williamson NFL show did a little episode yesterday. So you can go listen to that one. You should always be subscribed to that, of course. Talking about like, where the trade's coming from and what could those trades possibly be. So I thought about it and I got the 49ers involved with the trade up to number 3 again. So I want to talk about that next. And it's the 49ers part of it is not the interesting part. The interesting part is just how fans think of teams and how much you're held hostage for a good quarterback in the NFL. And I don't know if it's an argument against drafting quarterbacks or an argument for paying quarterbacks. I'm not sure, but I'm going to run that by you next.
Okay.
And I want to talk about Kyle Juszczyk, you being a former fullback yourself. I want to talk a little bit about special teams and just like, I have a question for you as well, and a question for the chat. So get ready for this one about how actually hard will it be for the 49ers to replace the talent that they've lost in free agency? Like how many truly important, irreplaceable pieces, even in one offseason, could the 49ers just be right back after one draft? Is that even a doable thing where the 49ers sit here in March 2025? All of that coming up next on Locked On 49ers. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Game Time. Oh, love Game Time. And baseball season, in my opinion, is the best way to use the Game Time app. I love that Game Time has started the college tournament, by the way, another fantastic way to use Game Time because there's so many games and there's so many ways to find yourself some tickets and get some fantastic deals on last-minute tickets as well. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like that experience, especially if it's a big game, a tournament game in person. So getting tickets shouldn't be stressful, and that's where Game Time comes in, making it easier to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Curation makes it easier with Game Time picks. It's a fantastic feature on Game Time. Curation makes it so much easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater. Yeah, it's not just for sporting events, concerts, comedy. I got some concert tickets for half off to a show that I wasn't even planning to go to, but you know what? The band added a second night, and I was like, you know what? If those tickets are half off on Game Time, I'm going tomorrow too. I'm going by myself. I'm not even bringing the wife. And they were half off. I was like, I'm getting one of those tickets. I can't pass up on this. This show was so good. And so it's phenomenal. Last minute baseball tickets. I've used it numerous times to go see the San Francisco Giants. And usually when I go see a Giants game, for some reason, it always seems to be last minute for me. So check the Game Time app. Sure enough, you can find yourself a seat, and it could not be easier. And Game Time Picks helps you find those seats and curates them for you, especially if you're going to a large stadium venue event. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, Wink. So I posted a little mock draft, just kind of having some fun. I was like, do the Tennessee Titans really just want to sink everything into Cam Ward, or should they take advantage of a team like the New York Giants, who might be a little bit motivated and even like more than motivated, like willing to do something crazy to go up to number 1 to get their quarterback because everyone's on the hot seat. And it's like, why would the GM care about future draft picks? Because he's not going to have those picks if he doesn't do something. And there's no more quarterbacks for them. They're talking to Russell Wilson, and like you can't fix your quarterback position. The only way you can possibly do it now is in the draft, and you got to hit a home run there, or you don't have a job. So I think the Giants are in a place where there might be a little bit motivated and even ready to do something reckless. And so if you're the Tennessee Titans, why not trade down and collect some picks, and then maybe get a blue chipper at pick number 3. And maybe you have to wait another year in your rebuild to get yourself your franchise quarterback. Maybe see how things go for Will Levis one more time. Maybe with your pick if you're bad again, but now you have extra picks, and now you got 2 picks in the 2026 draft. And maybe the Giants end up with the number 1 pick in the draft. Maybe you get the first 2 picks in the draft. Maybe it's a better quarterback class. Probably will be a better quarterback class. And I always use the name Arch Manning. I have no idea if Arch Manning's good. He's played 3 college games, and I've seen one of them.
He's a Manning. He's going to be good.
If he's fast Peyton Manning, lose all your games and go draft him, right?
Yes.
If he's fast Eli Manning, if he's fast Eli was the number 1 pick as it was and won 2 Super Bowls. If he's a better version of that, and that does, you don't have to beat Peyton, just be fast Eli Manning. And he's athletic and he's big and he's a Manning. I don't know if he's good, but that's just the name I always use to illustrate. It's like, you want to draft Cam Ward, or what about fast Peyton Manning? He could be in the next draft, right? And so I threw out a mock draft, and I was like, let's go even further. Let's trade back again. You're trying to collect picks. You're trying to rebuild if they're the Tennessee Titans. You know what player the 49ers could really use in this draft? It's Abdul Carter, stud pass rusher out of Penn State. What if the 49ers traded up to number 3 again? So I just did a little crazy mock draft. I threw it out there. And I was like, all right, Titans, not only do you trade down once with the Giants, then you trade out again with the 49ers. And I was advocating for the 49ers to give up an extra first-round pick for Myles Garrett, right? So what if they just did that for the next? He's not Myles Garrett. He if anything, he'd be the next Von Miller. He's that style, speed rusher off the edge. And it's not likely at all, but I threw it out there. And I would think a Titans fan would think that that's phenomenal. Multiple first-round picks, and don't trade down once, trade down twice, get a bunch of picks. You got 3 first-round picks in the next draft in a better quarterback class, and you get to add a bunch of extra talent and build your football team going forward. And I was kind of shocked by the response from Tennessee Titans fans. Were like, are you insane? Wait, get a quarterback of the future later. We have to get that right now. And I was a little bit surprised and shocked by that. But it's also kind of a statement of what it's like to be a have and have not in the NFL for a quarterback. And the 49ers might not have one of the elite top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, but they got a pretty good quarterback. And that's a better place to be than wherever the Tennessee Titans are right now, and wherever the New York Giants are right now. That is not a good place to be. So, Brock Purdy, I get it. Here's your $50 million. Mac Jones, here's your whatever $1 million to be the backup. It's tough out there at quarterback. Wink is basically what I'm getting.
It is, and if they do, go after Cam Ward or another top quarterback, there's absolutely no guarantee that they're going to be a good NFL quarterback. So now you've set yourself back again. Whereas in your scenario, they move back, they get some players that they can get multiple players for that one pick, players that could all be starters, players that could change the franchise in a better way. Maybe they, Bo Nix wasn't a top quarterback, right? And he was up for Rookie of the Year. I mean, he played phenomenal. The only reason he didn't get it, we all know why. Jaden Daniels was something special. But we just talked about it to start this show, right? Trey Lance. You're not guaranteed Zach Wilson, and even Trevor Lawrence. Like, you're not guaranteed to get that franchise quarterback just because you draft him early in a draft. Like, it's not guaranteed. It's not necessarily going to happen. Will Levis thought he was going to be a first-round draft pick, and he sat there all draft night. And now it looks like, they were pretty smart for not taking him early in that draft, or even in the first round. Didn't he fall to the second round? And he was there the whole first day and didn't get drafted. Like,
yeah,
that's a tough. But then you have the Lamar Jacksons, right? Who sit there all day and last pick of the first round, and all the you got probably, if not the best, top 3 quarterback in the NFL. So quarterback's just such a hit or miss position. And the 49ers, I think, with Brock Purdy, they struck some gold with that for sure. And you mentioned the Mac Jones stuff, and earlier I wanted to get back to this. You had mentioned with Mac Jones, I don't think he's a very good quarterback. Look at those rookie numbers with not much around him, playing for Bill Belichick in an offense that's not very good. He put up like 3,800 yards, 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, something like that. So, I mean, imagine him in a Kyle Shanahan offense. Like, that's fantastic. But I digress.
Hold on. On that point, Mac Jones got a raw deal, because remember what happened in year 2? They made the defensive coordinator the offensive coordinator.
They're like, let's give this guy a real challenge. Let's take away his offensive coordinator.
Like, you know what?
This guy's going to call plays. He's never done it before, but you're going to be fine.
A talentless offense isn't enough. Here, defensive coordinator Matt Patricia with the pencil in your ear. You call plays on offense now. Let's see how that goes. Spoiler, didn't go great for Mac Jones. So yeah, there's probably a little bit more. And he's obviously he's always been kind of a nice fit for Kyle Shanahan, even though he should never have been considered that first round guy. He's still a nice fit for Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And if I'm the 49ers and I could make a trade, I mean, what? So you talked about this mock draft that you did with the Titans, right? What did the 49ers give up to move up?
I mean, it would cost much less than what they gave up to get Trey Lance, because
sure,
it costs more to get a quarterback, and they know they're not going up to get a quarterback. And in this mock draft, the quarterback was gone anyway. But it was, it would take a future first to go up from 11 to 3 or whatever. But is it worth?
Do you think the 49ers should do something like that?
I don't think so necessarily, but I was just thinking about, like, look, if there was an opportunity and someone like Abdul Carter falls and he's the next Von Miller, that's worth 2 first-round picks. And
yeah, because last week I talked about should they trade back and get more picks, and Croc said I think they should trade some picks and move up. Yeah. So it's kind of on the same path that you're talking about right there.
I could see it either way. You have to. And this is kind of it's the same with the Titans as it is for the 49ers. You have to maximize the value that you have. So if you have a high pick, you get a stud player or you get the hell out, right? Like you maximize that pick to get the best possible return, which is either a superstar player. And if you don't think that that's there for you, you're absolutely listening to offers, get more picks and get more throws at the dartboard. So one or the other for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers don't have great first-round success. I mean, Bosa, but that's obvious. That was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Right? But then you look at, like, Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster and Trey Lance. I mean,
Mike McGlinchey was technically a hit. Like, Mike McGlinchey was a fine player and got a nice second contract. It wasn't with the Niners. It was with another team. That was a hit. I don't want Mike McGlinchey in this draft.
No.
I want Trent Williams. I want Nick Bosa, and you don't have to have a Hall of Fame player or anything to get a good return, but you have to have a nice difference-making player when you're drafting this high, especially for a team that's expecting to not draft high. And you get that 11th pick. And I understand that's why the 49ers did what they did and tried to leverage that into going up and getting a superstar quarterback when they did it in 2020. It was just bad process, and they missed the boat completely on that one. Luckily, they found Brock Purdy, and he's been really good for them. Next, though, Wink, I want to talk about, in a realistic way, how could they replace the talent they've lost, and how actually important is the talent San Francisco 49ers have lost in 2025 free agency. Next.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
I got to be honest, Wink. I don't pay as close of attention to the college tournament as I used to. I really try to avoid like filling out brackets, and I used to have like 9 brackets. I used to play in like 10 fantasy baseball leagues. Baseball was my first love. It's the sport I played most. I still play slow pitch softball on Monday nights, right? I love baseball, but like we had our fantasy baseball draft last night, and I'm in a league with you, and it's this keeper league, and it's pretty deep. And I'm like, I don't know. I used to know every single prospect. I would know single A guys. I would know their scouting reports. Like a baseball scout was one of the things I kind of wanted to do when I was younger. And I was like, this is kind of the direction I want to go. I ended up doing like more football stuff. But I've had that scouting mind. And that's why I love doing the keeper leagues and the deeper leagues. But I follow football so closely. And, after having, becoming a family man and having a kid, like I'm out. Baseball prospects, I'm not good with anymore. I barely know who the closers are for the teams in Major League Baseball right now. And I'm all the way out on the tournament. I have no clue, and I don't have a single bracket filled out this year. But it's still an awesome time of the year because of the vibe. And I love the NFL draft. Absolutely love it. In a lot of ways, the NFL offseason is as much fun as the NFL regular season for me. And love it when baseball gets going. It's just that feeling of spring, right? And the tournament is happening. It's just such a great time of year. And in my opinion, like March and especially April, like October's number 1. April's number 2 for me for the best months of the year. And a lot of it is because of what's going on in the sporting world.
Yeah, I mean, starting on Thursday, I'm going to be watching nothing but men's college basketball for 4 days straight. I mean, I love those first 4 days.
You watch every single
one
exists.
I'm flipping back and forth. I got 2 TVs going. I got my phone up for a third. I'll put my computer out for a fourth if I need to. It's funny you mentioned the fantasy baseball, and you mentioned that we did a 49ers podcast before this, Gold Faithful. Before that, our very first podcast that we did was a fantasy baseball podcast that you and I did. We didn't do too many episodes. We did a couple, and then we're like, you know what? We just sit here most of the time and talk Niners. Like we should probably switch and do a Niners podcast.
Yeah, that's right. We did. We did fantasy baseball because we were way into fantasy baseball, doing a lot of baseball leagues, and it was an easy way to get in the podcasting universe. By the way, LKV in the chat says top baseball prospect for fantasy might be Dylan Cruz. I had Dylan Cruz. And I didn't keep him. We only get 5 keepers. I kept some other guys, have some high price down. I might need to do the 49ers
last night.
I might need to cut some cash and also I didn't realize I would have kept Dylan Cruz and traded him because everyone went crazy when we do an auction league. Everyone went crazy when Dylan Cruz was out there. But
it's one of those where he better hit because you're not going to be able to keep him for the price you just spent on him, guys. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and like he's kind of more of a base stealer. Like, where's the power? Can't be a top prospect and not have him.
You spent all your money earlier. You just sat around the whole draft.
That was my goal. I want to draft the guys I know and spend a lot of money on them. And I don't want to. It's too much platooning in baseball. I don't want to mess with my lineup. So if I have Mookie Betts in, they're not going to sit him down, so I don't have to change him out of the lineup all the time. So that was kind of my goal, is to have 9 position players that don't platoon. That was my number 1. Yeah. Speaking of the 49ers and some of the cash cutting they've done, is it really that big a deal what the 49ers have done this offseason? By the way, really quick, your thoughts on and you wore 44, didn't you? As a
No, I was 40.
40. Okay, my bad.
For bar none.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I was 40.
Okay, another 49ers fullback. I got it wrong. It's number 40, not number 44. What are your thoughts on Kyle Juszczyk? Wasn't it weird that they let him go, but then they brought him right back for basically the same amount of money?
A whole lot. I guess maybe they were like, hey, we'll give you a chance to go out there and get some money. He got a better offer from Pittsburgh, but he was like, I want to go back and play in Santa Clara. And I like it. I mean, I like Juszczyk. I think he's a fantastic football player. He's a great blocker. He's a wonderful pass catcher, and I like him as a 49er. But with all the moves that they've done in the offseason, I know there's a lot of people complaining and sad about it, but you're talking about a team that won 6 games last year. This is not a very good football team. Like, a lot of these guys just needed to go. You can bring in some fresh blood, some guys that weren't around last year to sit through all that losing. You bring in some guys, you go through the draft. Maybe we still see another free agent or 7, that they add between now and then, because they gotta fill out a roster. But you really just need to hit in the draft, right? I mean, you need to get 3, 4, 5 starters, I think, out of this draft in order to actually fill the football team.
You look at the offense, the entire offense is back, minus Bo Samuel and minus Aaron Bates, but the guy who filled in for him, Ben Barch, is back, and he was fine. Right? I don't think they're missing a ton there. They need to address the offensive line, but I think Chris Foerster, 49ers offensive line coach, and the 49ers like Jake Brandel at center, like Colton McKivitz at right tackle, a lot more than most 49ers fans if you polled them. So I don't think they see those needs as much as some 49ers fans do on the offensive line. And you drafted a guy in the first round that should, drafted a guy in the first round at wide receiver. He should be able to theoretically replace Deebo Samuel. Like, that's the idea. You got Juwan Jennings, your number 3. You got Cowling, who was the 4th round. You brought in DeMarcus Robinson, right? So the offense shouldn't be a problem. It should be as good as it was last year, and potentially better in some ways. And, as long as everybody's healthy, especially Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams. So you could project the offense to be even better on paper than it was last year, even minus Deebo Samuel. Now, the defense is kind of the problem, but they already needed to upgrade the defense anyway. And is it really that hard to replace Javon Hargrave, who was hurt and didn't play that much, Dre Greenlaw, who was hurt and didn't play that much, as good of a player as he is when he is healthy? And could you project him to even continue to be healthy and be that guy for you? Talanoa Hufanga was banged up a lot. You already replaced him. You already replaced Mooney Ward with your draft pick, Renardo Green, who looked really good for the 49ers. So when you start going down the list, it's like, okay, well, if you were able to realistically hit on your first round pick that is a defensive tackle, and your second round pick who is a at least sort of like a number 3 edge rusher, a rotational kind of a speed rusher that you can bring in on passing downs, right? Like I'm only talking about 2 draft picks right now, and you relatively do well with those 2 picks in the first 2 rounds, defensive tackle and an edge rusher that can rotate with Yetur Gross-Matos. Are you any worse than you were last year in your front 7 that didn't have Dre Greenlaw anyway? You know what I mean? And so, because Malik Collins is not going to be hard to replace because he had no impact on the 49ers. Javon Hargrave was a big signing, and there were flashes, but he was injured, so he didn't really do much for you. Leonard Floyd was kind of like out there and okay, but he wasn't a player where you're like, man, we can't replace him, right? So they lost a lot of guys, but in a lot of ways, I don't think it should be that difficult to replace him. But here's the problem with that concept, Wink, is let's say you replace everybody the same that you were last year. You only won 6 games last year. So that doesn't mean you got back to 2023 either if you just replace what you had. So to me, it's almost like, well, the guys you had last year weren't good enough anyway. And so trimming the fat is not a problem. Like Malik Collins is not a problem for me losing him. As good as Dre Greenlaw is, you shouldn't expect that Dre Greenlaw we remember, that we love. You shouldn't expect that. And there might be some of that left, but you shouldn't expect that for the next 3 years of his contract. And so I just think that maybe it won't be quite as difficult as it looks. And I do think that the lesson here, Wink, and I want to hear what you think about this. The lesson here for the 49ers wasn't so much that, oh man, look what they did in the 2025 offseason. It was like, no, hold on. Look what you did in previous off seasons that led you to this, because that's where the decisions really mattered.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you can look at all what the 49ers are doing and say, what are they doing? This is crazy. But again, it's a 6-win football team. You cut a lot of guys that were injured, that weren't able to get on the football field. And you kept some guys that weren't on the football field, which is one of the main reasons you didn't win last year. Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, these are guys that without them, you lose a lot of football games. They're 2 of the best at their position in football. And I saw it in the chat a few times. I said it last week when it happened. Dre Greenlaw, that hurt. But when you looked at his contract, I'm glad the 49ers didn't give him that contract because it was a big injury. And you saw him come back and he looked amazing, and then he immediately left the field. You know, and it's like, that's bummer.
I don't think the contract is even that bad. It's just that you shouldn't expect he's going to be on the field enough.
I'd love it if he did.
But at the same time, like, I'd probably still just roll the dice and cross my fingers with Dre Greenlaw at $11 million per year than have Kyle Juszczyk and Luke Farrell, a fullback and a backup tight end too. So it's like,
yeah, you're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
I mean, Kyle Juszczyk is fun, but I don't think he's the reason that the 49ers offense is so good. Like, I think he's a nice little Swiss Army knife. He gets a touchdown here or there, makes a big catch, for a first down, things like that. It's fun to watch. He makes the Pro Bowl because there's like 3 fullbacks in the league. Cool. And I agree with you. If it was up to me, I would sign Dre Greenlaw for that price. But the 49ers might know a lot more about his injury than we do, right? They've seen that knee. They've seen, what his tendons look like on the screen, right? We don't know what that's all about. Maybe they're just like, you know what? This is just going to happen again. We can't do this. He's out there wearing 2 huge braces. Like, we got to move on from this guy. So this is, I think, one of those cases where it's like, trust the process. For the 49ers, trust the process. We started this podcast when it was the football team was very, very bad. It was fire Jed York. It was winning, 1 or 2 games. Like, it was terrible when we started this thing. So how far the 49ers have come to be like, trust the process. Whereas before it was like, they can't do anything right. What's going on? So they've earned it, I think, at this point. The 49ers front office, I think John Lynch and his guys, hopefully the loss of Adam Peters, which, again, what he's done in Washington is amazing. And hopefully that, the 49ers found a good replacement for him. The draft last year was pretty good. I'm not hating on last year's draft, but this year's draft is so much more important because you need starters. You need, to quote our boy Ryan Covey, we need starters, dog. Like, that's what we need on this team right now, are starters, and they need to get them in this draft. And hopefully they nail that 11 pick, or they do what you want to do, move up and get a real stud.
I had no clothes, just had a pair of sweats.
The Chip Kelly era, man. Who could forget how weird that post-Harbaugh, pre-Kyle Shanahan era was for the San Francisco 49ers?
Brutal.
How far they fell. Yeah, shout out to Covey, another Bay Area radio legend. And now that you're back in Fremont, we could probably golf with Covey a little bit more often.
We got to make that happen more often, at least once a month. We got to get out. Come on.
Real quick one here. I want to go to George in the chat. He says, Shedeur Sanders at pick 11. Kyle gets fired during the draft. Dion wins the Super Bowl, presumably as head coach of the 49ers. Shedeur, rookie of the year. What do you think? Should the 49ers go all in with the Sanders family? Hey, the 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl since they had Dion the last time, right? So what do you think? Shedeur Dion combo for the San Francisco 49ers, Wink.
Make it happen. Let's go. Sign me up.
Man, the latest.
I need a Super Bowl, baby.
It feels like Shedeur Sanders is going to go number 2. It might go quarterback 1-2 after all to the Titans and the Browns. That's the latest. Interesting.
He'll be top 5. I don't think he'll stay.
And no,
you know how quarterbacks are, man.
I don't think the 49ers are going to trade up, by the way. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there to be like, it would be nice to have Abdul Carter. You know,
I really doubt they draft a quarterback too.
For a lot of options for the San Francisco 49ers. Croc and I are going to continue to dive into the tape and break down 49ers prospects in the 2025 NFL draft. So stay tuned here. And of course, my guy, Nick Winkler, the voice of the fan, joining us every Winky Wednesday. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And Croc and I back tomorrow right here. Locked On 49ers.
See you.
I had no clothes, just had a pair of sweats.
So bad.